A sad fact is that with life comes death. It will happen to all of us, but that doesn't make dealing with it or understanding it any easier. Life and death go hand in hand. You simply cannot have one without the other. The devastation that the death of a friend or a loved one causes is profound. And facing up to our own mortality can be distressing too. So looking for a way to cope or help with the loss of someone is natural. We always seek ways to make tough times just that bit easier, as well as to create some understanding for ourselves. I'm going to read some inspiring and some funny quotes about death, and the StreamYard link is there for people if they want to come on one after the other and talk a little bit about this subject, if they wish. After all, it's something we all have experience with in one way or another. If nobody wants to come on to talk about this subject, I will just read through the chat and then end the stream when I'm finished. Dying has and continues to be a source of inspiration to art, literature, and music, as well as talked about by some of the most famous people in history. There are many quotes about death. Hopefully they can either help ease the hurt and grief, or they will help you to find some comfort in knowing what others have been through, and that we have all shared the same emotions. Socrates said, "Death may be the greatest of all human blessings." Death, they say, acquits us of all obligations. Michel Equum de Montaigne. Euripides said, "Nobody can confidently say that he will still be living tomorrow." Euripides is right, of course. Nobody is promised tomorrow. Jim Morrison puts it more bluntly. No one here gets out alive. Banksy said, "They say you die twice. One time when you stop breathing, and a second time a bit later on when somebody says your name for the last time." Benjamin Franklin has a little more of a pragmatic approach to the subject. Benjamin Franklin said on death, "Many people die at 25 and aren't buried until they are 75. Mitch Albom said, "Man alone chimes the hour, and because of this, man alone suffers a paralyzing fear that no other creature endures, a fear of time running out." Mitch is right. Animals don't ponder over death. They don't worry too much about their own mortality. Why would they? We all die. The goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will. Chuck Palahniuk. I would rather die a meaningful death than to live a meaningless life. Corazon Aquino. Albert Einstein said, "Our death is not an end if we can live on in our children and the younger generation, for they are us. Our bodies are only wilted leaves on the tree of life." Albert's right as well. Nobody else will keep a photo of any of us up on their fireplace and mention us from time to time, apart from our children, if you're a good parent, of course. There are funny quotes regarding death. Woody Allen said, "It's not that I'm afraid to die, I just don't want to be there when it happens." Winston Churchill said, "I am ready to meet my maker, but whether my maker is prepared for the great ordeal of meeting me is another matter." When I die, I want to go peacefully, like my grandfather did, in his sleep, not yelling and screaming like all of the other passengers in his car. That quote is attributed to unknown. My favourite quote is written by Dick Sharples. Death is just nature's way of telling you to slow down. Dick Sharples is a clever guy. We can live together if we reduce the risks in our life, if we try to work less harder, if we can find a healthier approach to life, if we don't go bungee jumping, if we don't jump out of trees, if we walk down the stairs. I remember seeing an article once that said most accidental deaths in the home for men are when they're putting on their trousers. I don't know if that's true. But if we don't take the risks, are we really living? If we don't partake in all of the things that make us unhealthy, like cigarettes, alcohol, junk food, illegal substances, extreme sports, fast cars, crazy women, crazy men, even climbing onto the roof to fix the aerial like Rod Hull did when he couldn't get a good picture on his telly. I've told you before that television is a dangerous thing. If we didn't do some or all of these things, then exactly how exciting would our lives be? Hey chat, auditor auditing, how are you, sir? Arkash, always in with the oi oi. I thank you for that. Anthony, big love, man. Baron, Mary Jane, hello, Mary Jane. This might be a short one. I thought maybe somebody might want to come on and chat about the subject, but I expect people don't really want to. I'm fine, thank you, Mary Jane. I'm not feeling morose or down. It's just a subject that interests me. You know, you can't hide from it. It's going to happen to all of us. But no, I'm fine. I'm not feeling deathly or anything like that. I'm going to have a really nice dinner out of this, so there's no plan for anything else. Hey Joe, death is a controversial subject. Nobody wants to talk about it until it happens. And when it doesn't happen, we all pretend it doesn't exist. Funny that, isn't it? Anyone want to pop in and talk about death? You have to have a StreamYard account to jump on, Baron. I don't know if you have. Oh, I see. Any thoughts on death, Joe? I had the impression this might be a short one tonight. The Buddhists will teach you how to die. They're good at it. They teach you how to live too. That's the important thing, Mary. You know, whilst I think it's very important to recognize our mortality, I think it's far more important to recognize our life, you know. And I'll be honest, that was the inspiration for this live now, really. Over the last couple of weeks, I've seen people who didn't value life so much. I do. I value life greatly. I have a 10-year-old son. I've got to live forever for him. I can't go anywhere. And he's fucked now, so how it's going to be when I'm 78 years old, Lord only knows. But I hear they do wonderful things with mechanics and spare parts from animals, so I should be all right. I'll probably have a horse's knee installed within the next 10, 15 years, and then I'll be fine. I'll be a thoroughbred, won't I? Maybe I'll have 4 installed so I can get around quicker. Cat lost her channel today. Cat was porn bombed. My God. That's something I'm very aware of and very careful of. I don't think I'll come across anything like that. People will be brought in whilst I'm on full screen anyway, generally speaking, unless I know them. And when I know them in the chat, I'll bring them on. Even a fake name won't work. It does come to us all, Joe. Not one of us is going to escape it. John Campbell says you want to live long, disease-free, and die quick. Yeah, that's my plan as well. I don't want to die too quick. I'm going to try and make it until I'm 80s or something. I do smoke. I don't do anything else. Very concerned that the smoking will end my plans earlier than I plan. But I'm really, really healthy apart from that. I've never had a smoker's cough or anything like that. Just had a bad knee. There is a guy in YouTube called Tipster. Look at his channel. He covers YouTube copyright stuff sometimes. Might help you. I have extensively looked into the copyright stuff because I'm all for bending the rules. I think you'll see that there's 4 or 5 songs on my YouTube channel which should have copyright on them, but there are little tricks you can employ to get around that every single time. You can do it with video as well. You can do it with images, because images are copyright as well. Got companies like Shutterstock and various other companies which will go for costs if you use their material, but there's always a trick. Maybe that guy is talking about that. What's Pure 420, Mary? Is that vape? I do have a vape machine and I do use it. When I go and see my son, I have to vape. For his sake, of course. He doesn't like me smoking. I wasn't there for his birthday because he's abroad, and I saw him about a month after. And he said to me, he blew the candles out, and the wish he made was that Daddy gave up smoking. And of course, it nearly broke my heart. The green stuff. Do you mean? Are we talking about cannabis here, Mary? We're among adults. I saw somebody mention the green stuff earlier. I don't know why people are talking in code. You know, cannabis. It's a word, isn't it? It's a product. It's a plant. It's a, you know. It's not a hidden word, is it? It's not a word we shouldn't be using. Hi, Marie. We're on a great topic tonight, Marie. We're talking about death. course we are, Anthony. Everyone's scared of dying. I think some people pretend they want to finish their lives earlier. I think some people say it and mean it. But generally, I think we're all terrified of dying. I am. Terrified of other people dying as well. Especially those close to me. Is nobody going to come and see me? Not one of yous. Cannabis is the enemy of the big pharmaceutical companies. I'm not so sure, Joe. I think cannabis can perfectly coexist with most of the pharmaceutical companies. I think people have a fair idea of what they should be using from the pharmaceutical companies, but of course they have a fair idea of what cannabis can replace as well, you know. There are a few drugs that pharmaceutical companies produce that I disagree with. There's an area of medicine that I don't think is very useful or helpful, and that's antidepressants. Never heard a positive story about antidepressants. Never heard a success story about antidepressants. It seems to carry people a little bit of the way, but it doesn't take them the whole journey. Not like a course of steroids or antibiotics. And that for me is a drug that essentially isn't doing what it's designed to do. Anthony's not afraid of dying. But you want to live, don't you, Anthony? You want to live for a long time. You want to hang around forever. If you knew tomorrow was your last day, I'm sure you'd be annoyed. I would be. Marie C has no lights. Do you know where your fuse box is, Marie? Because that's what you've done. Oh, it's back on. Council just left. Were you sat in darkness, Marie? Some people do that for relaxation, you know. Was it relaxing? Did you enjoy it? Did you meditate? Did your telly not work for all that time? Was it awful? Hi, Master Ron. Master Ron, I was talking about death, which doesn't seem the most interesting of subjects. If I come on to talk about old men doing inappropriate things on the internet, I get about 20 people lining up talking about death. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's true. It's not death you need to be scared of. It's the living. I think Robbie Williams said in one of his songs he's trying to communicate with the living or something, you know. Trying to communicate with the living, not the dead. The same as you, Baron. Same as you. I never really put much thought into it. I always thought I'd last a little, sort of an average time, you know, 70. I thought I'd make it to 70, no problem. But now I think I should have to try and make it to 90 because I have a son. It terrifies you, doesn't it? makes you think, yeah, how would they cope without me? As I've said in other chats, I don't think society is teaching our kids the right things. I don't think adults in society are that reliable based on recent events, So we have to rely on ourselves to make sure our kids become the finished article before they grow up, that they're prepared for it, they know how to operate on the street smart, be prepared for all the crap that they're going to experience. Mr. Deegan, my friend. Big up, Vincent. That always sounds odd when I read that. Big up, Vincent. Good to see you live. Good to see you as well, Mr. D. The Buddhists say even if you have 1 minute left, as long as that's peaceful and happy, then that's what counts. Why would you just do that in your last minute? Why wouldn't you do it for every minute that you had? That's what I try to do. Marie says terrified of death, but when I'm low, I'm not. I'm sorry, Marie. Try not to be low. Another Pink Floyd quote, which was the title of this stream. I don't fear death. We are all pure energy. That happens as well, Baron. This is what worries me. People are too selfish. They just don't care. Too busy caring for themselves. It's not what I was taught. It's not what we were taught for hundreds or thousands of years. That's been bred out of us in a relatively short amount of time. Television, media, magazine articles, newspaper articles. It's all influenced people to think of themselves, to make women worry more about their hair than their children, to make men worry more about their sexual ability than providing and putting food on the table. That's what it's all done. It's horrific to see. It's easy to ignore. Maybe partly caused by depression. I quite often go to sleep and wouldn't worry if I didn't wake up. I'd never do anything. Sorry you feel that way, Anthony. I'd really like to talk to you one day. Not about that. Just talk to you. Graham Markin with the greatest question I've read so far this year. What's the last song, piece of music that you want to hear before you go? Start telling me the last song that you'll blast out just before you know you're going, and I'll read them out on the chat. I know what I would have. I'll tell you at the end. Energy never dies. It doesn't, Maria. I agree with you. But unfortunately, it disappears from this world. That's the bit that scares me. We can live on in other people's minds, but that energy just gets zapped, disappears. Maybe it does go somewhere else, but we don't know where that other place is. So I'm not gonna look forward to it. Fuck me, it might be Scunthorpe. Imagine we all end up in Scunthorpe. Your energy lives forever in Scunthorpe. Fucking hell. Somebody's saved my life. They've come onto the stream. Thank God. Master Ron.
Hello, mate. I got to ask you first. I've got to ask you first.
Do
What
you know
made
what?
you come up with it?
I was just about to knock it on the head and fuck off because I couldn't drag this out for much longer.
I've got to ask you, what on earth made you come up with a topic of death?
Well, it's a very relevant topic, Ron. Very relevant topic. I don't know if you're aware, but it happens to all of us. Not one of us have escaped it so far. A few people have tried. Walt Disney's got his head frozen in ice somewhere in the world, expecting to come back one day, and I'm sorry, he's not coming back at all.
Yeah, but I'll go for myself. Yes, would I like to be immortal? Yes. The downside to that is you'd need everybody else to be immortal, because
Imagine how much
otherwise,
imagine how much
yeah.
it would cost as well, Ron.
Well, it isn't just that. It's if your loved ones and everything kept on passing away and you was immortal and you carried on living and everything,
Yeah, you
wouldn't
would outlive your grandchildren.
your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, everything, and what goes into that, and you'll just be living in sorrow. You know what I mean? Completely. Who wants to go through all that?
I don't want to live forever. As I said
No.
earlier, I don't know if you was listening. This is not a morose stream. I came on. I'd just written a little piece on death. Really, it just occurred to me this afternoon as I was driving home from Lidl. Would you believe how inspirational is that? So I ran up a little sort of article on death, and I thought I'd read it out and see if somebody wanted to come and talk about death. And thank you for being here, Ron. But no, I don't want to live forever. I just want a fair share, if you know what I mean. If I make it to 80, I'll be fucking delighted.
Yeah,
Only about 30 years away. I've got this far, you know.
yeah. It comes down to you go to bed at night, go to sleep. Well, how do you know if you're going to wake up?
Well, you don't. You
Yeah,
absolutely
exactly,
don't. But
exactly.
you assume that you are. It's safe to assume that you are. I think when people get close to death, the indicators are there. Unless you get hit by a bus, the indicators are there that you're starting to get closer to it, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
So you'd want to live forever?
No, I was saying that, yeah, I would, but the downside to it, so no, in the end, if you think rationally about it and how much heartache you would go through if you did, then down to reality, then no, because, no, I wouldn't want to see all the family, loved ones, generations to generations to generations to you know what I mean? Ever is ever, you know what I mean? And like, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
No. Maria Moon, yeah, she's got a lot more she could say on this subject.
Okay.
A hell of a lot more.
Bring her on.
Like, here you go, because she believes in a lot of stuff, whereas myself, it's very short.
Is she coming on to talk to me?
Hello, Vincent. I didn't know you was going to do that.
Hello, Marie. Let me just say first of all, Marie, I have no experience really with death. I'm not thinking about death. I'm not morose about it. It just occurred to me it was a nice thing to talk about. I think what I tried to do with my talk at the start was to be positive about it, really. So
Yeah, it's funny. I'd literally just shared on Facebook the freedom of information figures. Because I was having like a bit of a debate with my daughter-in-law, who is like on the other side of the way we think.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll share that. She won't comment or say anything, but she'll probably have a look. And then I've come on here and it's like talking about death. It's like, oh, that's strange.
Well, we can do it in a positive way, can't we, Marie?
Yeah, much better. What's
I'm
your
really
thought on
lucky.
it then?
Well, I'm really lucky. So I have both my parents. They're both in their 80s. They're both as fit as fiddles. My mother's
Hmm.
85 and she runs around like a 22-year-old lamb.
Oh,
My
bless her.
father's, yeah, my father's not too far behind. He's a few sort of issues, but he's had those issues for about 30 years. So,
Yeah.
and apart from losing a really close friend a good few years ago, I've had very little experience with death apart from, again, the larger family. But it's something I think about a lot. Having children makes you
Yeah.
think about it a lot more, as Baron said
Yeah,
earlier.
I totally agree. Yeah, you sort of start to get fears of different things. Like, I used to love fairgrounds and things like that, but I saw the fear side once we had
Did you
kids. Like, oh my God, what if
did you
they
stop going on
fell out?
roller coasters because of the kids?
Yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah, I
Ah, the
stopped
perfect
enjoying
parent.
fairgrounds.
I hope they appreciate it one day, the ungrateful little brats.
I grew up with death. My dad was the youngest of 19. Some of them were like half brothers and sisters. My mum was the youngest of
19.
7. Yeah, so we had quite a huge family. So it seemed like that there was always funerals. So from about the
Well,
age of
yeah.
10, yeah, I weren't allowed to go to them younger than that, thank goodness. But I've been to loads of funerals, and I was saying to the taxi drivers the other day, I was like, I can't think what the word I'm looking for. I said I might come across really blasé about it, but that's not what I mean. It's just that I've, sort of like got used to it. And she just said, no, you've accepted it. And I said, yeah, perhaps that's a better way to put it.
Well, it's a natural part of life. As I said to your husband, we all
Yeah,
have it happen to us. It's unavoidable. I
yeah.
remember going to a funeral about 10 years ago, 10, maybe 12 years ago. My mum's sister died unexpectedly. She was probably a little bit too young to die. She was, sort of for the
Hmm.
family. I mean, my mother grew up in abject poverty in Ireland, and they're living until they're 90, 95. Today's generation will be lucky if they make it to 40. You know what I mean by that. But
Hmm.
one of my cousins, I was chatting to him outside the church before, and he said, quite sort of whispery, we're on to the next layer of chocolates. And it's true, generation by generation, we all start dropping off and going.
I know. Yeah, it's like that when my dad passed 2020 at the beginning, and just before we went into lockdown, we just managed to have his funeral just before, and it's kind of me and my brother were talking, and he was like, "We're next," and I was like, "Shut up!" But
But
yeah, not for quite a
it's
few years.
true.
God, I
But
know.
it's true.
It is then that it really hits home is when your parents pass. You think,
Well, there's a time barrier between a child and its parent. Usually that's 20 to 25 years, which is a generation. So you
hmm,
still got a fair amount
20
of
odd
time
years.
between your parents passing and then eventually, your sort of turn coming up. But what do you
Yeah,
do?
yeah.
Do you sit there all day long feeling down about it? Do you sort of write, books about it and sort of, go into a depression, or do you live, Marie? Do you live every single moment, enjoy it, and make the best of it? That's what I do.
You're right. You live, and I quoted that back at our son the other day, and he said it to us about a year ago. Stop looking at all that bullshit. He said, like, and YouTube. Oh, I don't think that it's. I don't think that it's bullshit, but I get what he was saying. Stop looking so much at all of that and start living. So when I quoted it back to him only a couple of days ago, and he just sort of laughed. I was like, yeah, this is what you said to me. But obviously, sometimes things happen in life that you have no control over. We are stuck at home, unfortunately, nothing to do with the lockdown. We're just, circumstances. It's the way it is at the minute, but it won't be like that forever. when we can get out, we will be. But myself, I'm trying to draw away from YouTube because I find it's too toxic.
It's all consuming, isn't it?
Yeah, there's too much drama, too much involvement, too much time spent on he said, she said, and all that. And although you want to reach out and comfort people, you can only do it so much, and
No,
before it takes
you
a toll on yourself.
you can't do it because from what I've seen so far, there's people just, I don't know, won't be helped. We had all of
Yeah, I
the
agree.
thing with you know who a couple of days
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
and then I thought this will bring some level of normality back. And then yesterday I went out. I went out for the evening and ended up staying out quite late. But I was listening on my way home, and there was killing online. And I was listening to that and thinking, where did that come from? And then today again, different people still killing each other, arguing. You know, it
I
seems to
know.
be rife at the moment. So I stay away from that. I'm not into that at all. It's
No, I
not my
don't
thing.
blame you. You know,
But
I
imagine,
sort of go,
Marie.
well, yeah.
No, go on. Continue, please.
I was only going to talk about, this lady that I listened to that says about the solar system, what's going on in our solar system, and the planetary alignments, and what happened so many years ago, sort of like in line to what's going on now, and although different, but still similar. And this last week has been about egos, like, and even myself, I find myself, I'm like, yeah, I know, and I'm thinking, no, pull yourself back. I'm arguing with my daughter over something, who thinks differently to the way we do, our eldest, and I think, no, stop reining
Kids.
yourself in, you've got to be a bit more humble. But egos, yeah, but it's supposed to all lighten up again for a little while. But
Well, I wonder how these people are not on YouTube. I wonder if sort of off YouTube, they're just normal people that just, get on with their lives. And I worry that maybe they might be a little bit argumentative away from YouTube as well.
yeah,
Life's too short for that. I've seen a little bit of shit in my life, mostly in the last 2 years, involving sort of my son and his mother. But generally, my life's been pretty good, and I think that's the same for most people. Really, you can always pinpoint something that will make you a bit argumentative or sad or whatever else. But yeah, I just don't understand it, and I won't be part of it. And yeah, I
yeah,
don't know.
I try not to get drawn in, but I did allow myself today. It's like my daughter-in-law, our eldest daughter's gay, and my daughter-in-law, her partner, shared a post to our son saying, "Oh, you won't be able to go to Spain because he's not had any of it." And I just thought it was a bit like rubbing it in his face. And although we'd made an agreement not to comment on each other's posts, it came up in my
Yeah,
feed, and I just said to him, well, you've seen what's going on here. Eventually it's going to become global, with more of the centres being shut down and things being taken to court and stuff like that. And then obviously I ended up having words with my daughter. My daughter came on and she's like, "I thought you weren't going to post on here anymore." And I was thinking, yeah, I know I shouldn't have done. But it's just like she's kind of rubbing it in his face. You've not had it, you can't go. And it's just like, oh, why be so mean?
but isn't it just easy to set out the rules with these people, your daughter and so on, that
Mm-hmm.
if they don't like it, just say, well, don't post to it, and I'll do the same. Because
Yeah, we did have that agreement.
I
Yeah, we
see
did.
controversial things on Facebook and YouTube, and some things I disagree with, and I don't find myself furiously typing away at the keyboard to answer them or to give them my opinion. I kind of, some things make me really angry, and I just pass on and read the next message.
Yeah, it's much more powerful to do that, and also you don't get angry.
I do.
So it's,
I
yeah, you
see
still
things that
get
I really
angry.
object to.
Yeah,
People's behaviour.
I just couldn't ignore it. I just thought, why didn't you do that privately? That's what I said to her. Why didn't you do it privately? Why on Facebook?
Have you
You
considered
know?
Have you considered blocking her on
I've
Facebook so
only
you can just
blocked her about 3 months ago after a year. My daughter
you know
blocked me, so I blocked her partner.
it's still possible for her to be your daughter and have a meaningful relationship with her, even though you're not friends on Facebook. You know, it's
That's
silly
right.
but
You are
true.
right. Yeah, because we
Um,
do chat fairly often, but we have to, don't we? We have to avoid so many topics with her, otherwise, yeah, it's not good.
well, only the topics that are in your mind at that time. I'm sure there's other topics that you don't cover with her, which you don't feel as though you're willingly having to avoid. You know, so
Hmm.
it should be dead easy not to just talk about it. I've got lots of friends who politically are far along the opposite end of the spectrum. We just don't talk about it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's the
Um,
best way. But she does have a little habit of reading something about Trump or something like that because she thinks, oh, I'll push my dad's buttons.
you're not posting
And
pictures
it's
of Trump all day long on memes, are you?
I used to once upon a time. I've actually finally stopped all that sort of thing or posting things that I think they'll see. And yeah.
On my Facebook, which I don't ever use, I think the last post I posted was probably 2 years ago at the start of the COVID, a Shakespeare quote. When Trump was heading up towards becoming president, I put a couple of posts in about him. And the day that he won and was going to be American president, I posted a photograph of Donald Trump in full regalia, full armor, with a sword on my Facebook. And I only have about 90, maybe 100 people that I'm connected to, and I lost about 5 people on that day. Just 5 people just unfriended me, and I have no idea who it was because I don't really pay much attention to who I am connected with or not. But yeah, I went down from maybe 95 to 90 or something, you know. And
Uh-huh.
that's fine. I mean, I wonder how many of them are supporting Biden at the moment and thinking he's doing a great job.
I don't know how anybody could think that.
Because that was the alternative, you know.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a lot of Democrats who are switching over to Republican now because of old Bo Biden, you know. He's
Yeah.
distanced a lot of people from left-wing politics because he's as crazy as a mule, the man is. Well, he's not. People who control him are, you know.
Yeah. And they don't mind that it's out there showing that he's like that. But, whether it's Alzheimer's or what it is, it's something, isn't it?
Oh, he's
Well, I've
always
had
been a poor bastard.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
oh, he's a
He's
nutcase
always
and a
been a nasty
racist
bastard.
nutcase as
Yeah,
well.
he's racist. We've
Um,
seen that.
Yeah, you just Google a few of his comments on race over the last 50
Yeah.
years that he's been in politics. He's a monster, but people
Yeah.
are happy to ignore that. People are happy to ignore that the Democrats started the Ku Klux Klan, you know, and they've managed to switch it all around. But
Yeah, and
I've
there's
even
videos. I
gone.
was just going to say the videos of him with the children, and it's like the parents want knocking out for allowing him to, just so they can stand there and get their photograph taken or whatever.
Yeah, I've read on Facebook. I'm in a few political groups, and I'm in a couple of left-wing political groups, literally just to see how they or
Yeah,
what
me
they write.
too.
And I've read so
Yeah.
many comments of people saying how eloquent Joe Biden is when he talks, and it just makes me howl with laughter. It's the most ridiculous thing I've read in my whole life. You know, how they will reinforce their own political values is just astounding to me.
Yeah.
And he's knackered the economy. He's knackered the trade. He's knackered all the relationships with all the countries that America was doing well with. You know,
Yeah.
you can see what Russia is posting all the time about the agendas, about bringing up children, the education systems, and he's doing that to point out that America's going the wrong direction, you know. And people still think Russia is the devil in this world. It makes me laugh.
Oh, yeah, I've always thought Russia's okay. I was saying that to an American the other day, saying
Yeah.
I don't think Russia is the problem.
Well, we get all the mass hysteria now about how Putin is a monster. He deals with his political opponents in a very sort of deathly way, so to speak. But then during the Cold War, we were told Russia were savages. We were told they were queuing up for bread. They were starving to death. We were told that they hated us. We were told that, you know, they would drop nuclear bombs on us without even thinking about it. And you couldn't have been further from the truth. You could not have been further from the truth.
Yeah, I think that's something that we've all learnt just lately, haven't we? That history. I can remember questioning it at school though, and saying, "Well, what would France and Germany say when we had to do about the Second World War, First World War?" I can't remember. I think it's the first. They said the second was still too raw. We weren't allowed to study that. We did the first, and I was like, "But yeah, but what would Germany say? What would France say? I'm sure their story's going to be different to ours." And yeah, sort of like many years down the line, it's like so many lies have been told and still are.
Yeah, we were told to hate the Germans, the Hun. You know, we went off
Yeah,
and killed millions of them. They went off and killed millions of us. And we should never have. Brother wars, they're called, Maria. Brother wars, when you're fighting the people who are of the same genetic background as you. It's a brother war, you know, happens in Africa, brother wars. It happens in Asia. And it shouldn't happen anyway, you know, but
no,
yeah, it's wrong. About 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, I was in Budapest. And whilst I was there, Putin made a visit to the Budapest, to the Hungarian Parliament, which is in Budapest. So I was there with all the crowds to see him arrive, and I wasn't stood that far away from him. He got out the car and did all his waving, and then they were doing a television broadcast of his speech and the Hungarian president's speech, Viktor Orban. And the whole purpose of his visit was Russia was investing about £500 million, £750 million into the churches in Hungary. They were going to rebuild and put back into really good shape all of the churches. And the whole reason for that was to, as he said in his speech, and I watched it live on television on my phone, sat in a cafe about 200 yards away from the Parliament building, was to bring the family back together, was to ensure that the children had a true education, a true religious education, to bring families together, to end divorce, because the church is predominantly, or used to be, very involved with your relationship. If you had a divorce, you didn't go to a fucking solicitor, you didn't go to the courts, you went to your local church, and they put the problems right for you, you know. And that's what they're building back in Hungary now. And it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. You know, all Russia was interested in was investing in this country so that families could get back on track, because the divorce rate was rising, the education level of the children was falling. I mean, bear in mind, these countries have a better education level than the UK anyway, but Putin was worried that it was dropping. And that's the devil, we're told. He's the devil.
yeah,
You know, it's mad.
absolutely. So, you know, I was brought up and told, you know, that the Japanese hate us because they think they're far superior, they're more intelligent, we're just stupid. And then I saw only a short documentary on them, but it's about how they do meditation before work and school, and they talk about spiritualism and love, and I thought it's just rubbish, isn't it? What they tell us to try and make us hate these nations that we've never met or come across or know a
Yeah.
lot about.
It is, it's madness. I don't think we'll ever see a world war again. I definitely don't think we'll see a world war where it's just missiles. Because
No, I think this is it, isn't it? This is the Third World War, what we're going through.
I
Just
do too.
on a different
I do
level, isn't it?
too. Yes,
Yeah.
because essentially the aim of war, I don't know if you're aware, is to grow the wealth of the countries involved and to grow the morale of the people. That's the two main components that can be found from war.
How does it grow the morale of the people?
Well, if you remember how the British people were after the end of World War II, we went into the largest growth in this country after World War II than had ever been seen before. People
So
feel
much,
relieved. Sorry?
yeah, money-wise. So
Yeah.
money-wise, but all the loved ones they've lost and all that, isn't it?
Well, as we find, people tend to be able to move on from that quickly, you know. And yeah, prosperity always follows war. Countries rebuild very, very quickly, unless, of course, they're South Asian or African countries where there's no sort of resources in the first place, apart from natural resources which other people are removing from those countries. But yeah, war brings morale like nothing else, you know. The rebuilding after a war is an immense thing, and that's what we've had right now, and I think that's what we're going to be looking at for the future.
Yeah.
Is everything's going to come back marvelously. You know, it's been a tough 2 years. I did do a talk about this the other night, so I'm not going to go through it all again, but quite simply, you know, all of the bad things are behind us now, I think. I don't think the government's going to spring anything on us out of the blue now. They might try, they'll fail.
Yeah, because we're already waiting for it, aren't we? Yeah, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
But,
There's
on the flip side, sorry, I just want to say on the flip
no,
side,
it's okay.
yeah, YouTube, as I said, is toxic. There's a lot of toxicity in it, but as you're saying, there's a lot of community in it as well. There's some really lovely, genuine people
There
on
is.
here too, isn't it? And that's why I find it hard to pull away, I think.
Well, can't you just ignore and keep away from those areas? I'm
Yeah.
trying desperately to try and bring a slightly different perspective. I'm sure there's a million people do what I will probably evolve into being able to do reasonably well, but I'm trying to be very positive. I've seen a few people arguing, and I've kind of got in the way, and hopefully influenced a better situation in some way. Maybe they did it all on their own, but I intend to
You
stay.
did it the
I
other
like it.
day. You stopped
Yeah.
two people, you put them both on mute, and I thought, we both said yes. And then it's fine, isn't it?
Let me tell you a secret, Marie. There ain't going to be no fucking about on my channel.
Well, that's good, because a lot of the new channels, we love coming on and we think, oh, this is really serene, it's relaxing, there's not too many people found this channel yet. And then a few weeks down the line, it's chaos again. And you think,
Yeah.
oh.
But
There's a couple that
learning.
stay consistent though, like Indy. He's still what I class as a safe place to go and chat.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
You're off.
Yeah.
I don't listen. I do get the reminders for India, and I've been subscribed to him for quite a while, but I never get told when he's on, if you know what I mean. So I always miss them. I get Tyrant Finder come up a few times and go and join. I don't join, but I listen along to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Indy's a nice guy, and I know his rooms are quite ordered, but that can be encouraged across more platforms as we carry on. I think if we show a better example, and have rooms. When SG comes back, I think he's going to come back with a different approach. He's not going to have the rabble again, you know. I think he's fucking done with the rabble.
I
So it is
understood where he was
possible.
going from the beginning. I really did understand that. Okay, give everybody a spanner, no one can block anyone. But the problem was that, you know, some of them comments needed blocking. They really did, but you couldn't do anything about it. But I understand what his train of thought was, but that's not the way either, is it?
I think he'll reassess and come back better, come back
Yeah,
stronger.
we do
You know,
like this still.
SG's great. Hey,
Mhm.
Bear.
What's going on, Vincent? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, yeah. Good, thank you.
Hello,
I
Bear.
started.
What's going on,
I
Maria?
started
You good?
this.
All good. All
Good.
good. Yeah, I still haven't got to thank you, Bear. That time that you came on and we was chatting, I think it's Mr. J and Kat and all that. And do you know what? I have to say, honestly, you kick-started my faith again with your talk. You really did.
Okay,
And I've
that's
never got a
good.
chance to say thanks.
No, listen, don't need to thank me. It's good, man. It's good to be
Well,
in touch
you did.
with that side, you know.
Yeah,
You
I
don't have
kind
to
of
be
let it
like
slip a
die
bit.
hard, like some, you know. You don't have to be like devote
Oh
your whole
no.
life to it, but it's good to definitely have it there, I think.
Yeah, I'd sort of lost it a little, I think. And yeah, thank you.
I've been watching the lives for the last couple of days, BBN. There's been a lot of infighting, you know, sort of all on the same team. Again today.
What do you mean infighting?
Well, there was something earlier involving Gypsy. Did you not see that?
No.
Yeah, something going on with Gypsy and I think Blackburn audits. And I don't know what it was, but I got the gist of it and didn't bother to stay around for too long. But last night as well, when I was driving home, I was listening to you guys. I think you were in Film Boys, and there was a bit of arguing going on there as well. And you were there, and I thought you were very calm and very peaceful how you dealt with it. And that's why I
I'm
put
just
on
done,
your.
Vincent. When I said
I
to you
know
the
you
other
are.
day, I'm done, bro. Like, and you know, like, this isn't me like turning on anyone like my side, if you like, but I feel like everyone wants to turn around and say BBA is a straight up guy. He calls shit out. That's why I like him, right? But then if that's the case, we could turn around and say, I'll maybe give a few people a little bit of a free pass, a little bit closer to myself. Yeah. And it's like, I've seen a few things since I've decided, like, and not decided, but reevaluated things. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I can't sit on the panel with you, even though I get on with you and I would class you as a friend. I can't sit on the panel when you're doing something I don't agree with. Can't do it.
No.
You know, like, and sorry if that's necessarily going to make me like a few people think differently of me, but no, man, like,
Oh God,
Well,
no,
let
you
me.
do what you think is best.
I need to be around positivity and stuff like that because when I'm not, it's
Yeah,
easily to go back the other way. And it's like, you know, if I don't want to, but like, if certain places were just to carry on the way they have been going, I'll have to distance myself from them. And I wouldn't
Yeah,
want to, but for the sake of my own sanity.
for your own good, I was just about to say, you know.
exactly.
But also as well,
Yes.
Bear, behaving that way, doing that will eventually show other people the way it should be done. Because people, it doesn't go unnoticed, I promise you. A good approach to something never goes unnoticed. A bad approach does, you know. People won't learn from a bad approach. So yeah, it won't take long before they'll notice that you move away when it happens. And that will subconsciously to them change their behavior. I promise you. That's how it happens.
Well, to
That's
be
what I
fair,
do
I'm
with my
already
son.
doing it to a degree. Not like I've fallen out with anyone, but to a degree, I already am. I'm already not in certain streams right now that I usually would be on a night-to-night basis. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes. And do your own thing. You know, if you really feel the compulsion to do a panel, do your own panel, but it's your panel, it's your fucking rules. You know, whoever comes on is up to you, and whichever the way it goes, again, is up to you. I enjoy the panels, but I won't have the kind of panels that SG runs because I don't enjoy them. They're too, they go out of control very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They go mad.
Yes.
They do.
Do you know what the worst part of it for me all is, and I know Bear's experienced it, and I don't know if you have yet, Vincent, is the personal attacks. I cannot just sit there and hear someone laying into Master Ron about things that he's shared. Maybe, it's up to him whether he shared them or not, but his vulnerabilities, and to use them as a weapon against him. I know that they don't get to you, but they do bother me. Exactly. But then if they talk about me, that gets to you then, like your partner, Bear, as I know she's been through the mill as well, far more than what, I just had a few derogatory comments made and that was it. But
I wasn't aware that Ron had ever been subjected to any malicious comments. I wasn't aware that anything had been said about Ron.
God, yeah, it was vile. But the guy that was doing it, Vincent, was literally mirror reflecting. I do use that phrase a lot, and it's not always the case, but he literally was. What he was saying, he was talking about himself, but it was vile, and it went on for too long, and the person who's hosted it knows that he did it wrong, has learnt from it. So, fair play. I'm not going to pull him up on it anymore, but the person who did it, I would never speak to them again.
Well, I haven't experienced anything too negative so far. I've had a few catchy remarks. I've had a few people in the comments try and tell me I'm a psychologist or I'm trying to, strip people apart, which I'm not. But what I will use as soon as I have the opportunity, if somebody gives me the opportunity, is just block people. I know they can come back, but I'll just block them again. I'm not gonna put up with it. I don't want that kind of thing in my chat. I've let it exist and it doesn't bother me whatsoever. But if somebody gets really personal or offensive, they'll just block them. And that's it. I didn't appreciate their opinion anyway. So what's the point of me seeing it?
Yeah, exactly. They're doing it just to get a reaction, aren't they?
Of course they are. Ron's bigger than that anyways. Ron's very much like me, I assume. He's seen enough to worry about a few comments on the internet.
Yeah, especially who it came from. Say no more, say no more.
I have upset a couple of people. I have upset a couple of people in the things that I've said. I've never lost my cool on the internet. I don't think I ever will. I rarely do it in real life either. But I have said a few things which has upset people. One of them deserved it. The other one probably not so much. But that's what the internet's all about. We have opinions. They're like bumholes, aren't they? We've all got one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've all got one, and we tend to make it known as well, which is dangerous.
How is your missus now, Bear? Is she all right?
Yeah, no, she's all good. She was all right before. It was just like she was getting, brought into something that, like, at the end of the day, she didn't choose to come on YouTube. I did. When I sat down with my missus and was like, look, this is what I want to do. These are the reasons why I'm sitting you down, because it may come with this consequence and this consequence. And all those consequences are always about, like, a night in a cell, police at your front door, intimidation tactics from the police, which we've had a little bit of in the little time that I've had my channel. And I always thought it would be that. And that's what I had to protect her from and let her know that it was a possibility. But then when it started being like people bringing like trying to look into her personal life and trying to pull things up from her past and humiliate her and stuff. When at the end of the day, this has nothing to do with this. Just because she comes on and gets involved in the chats, and she's been on a few panels before, she only does that really, I think, through like trying to support me
Yes,
on
that's
YouTube. Do you
good.
know what I mean? It's not like it's her that came to YouTube. It was me. She just so happens now to kind of be around it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just think that's where for
Yeah,
her.
it's kind of like when your home space is invaded. Yeah, I totally get that. We had that years ago. I won't go into it. I've spoke about it on YouTube before, but I won't go into it today. But we've had that with police harassment. I know what that's like, and it is like it's a total invasion of your privacy. And then the personal attacks as well. I've only had it a small amount, but I have seen and said stuff before when I've seen it to your missus, and it's yeah, then people just need a slap. They really do.
Agreed.
But there is another way, isn't there, Bear? You can still keep your presence and level of velocity in your YouTube channel without having to get involved with the infighting and so on.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
I'll do that.
people,
I'll do that in the fight, mate. The real fight, and that wasn't
yeah,
other YouTubers and viewers, everything else, even the trolls. It was, it was never about that.
people will respect and accept you into the fold, whether you come in to argue or to calm things. It's the same thing both ways.
And again,
It's
I
just
don't
like
worry about it, right? Because, like, again, as I've said, I won't be influenced or swayed by anybody. But I have sat down in the last couple of weeks before as well, like when I am going to choose to change things and try and, reflect on the things that kind of needed to be changed. And there may be certain people that will now like think, oh, well, the way I was before was false because I'm so eager to just flip it. But that's not the case. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like it has to be done, really. The way it was kind of going.
I don't think people felt it was false, Bear.
Nah, but like, do you know what I mean? People like, I don't know. People are all right saying that. Bear with me a minute, mate.
No, I think it's a learning curve, isn't it? Like my other half's thought about setting up his own, and then we see all what you guys go through having your own channel. It's like, oh, really? And then the new restrictions. It's like, what? Can't talk about this, can't talk about that, can't say this, can't say that. I don't know what you're going to do.
I compare it to Rome. If you remember, in Rome, Caesar would hold his when they had the gladiator shows, and Caesar would sit in the highest chair, and the crowds would cheer or boo accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
And Caesar would put his thumb up or put his thumb down, and if the thumb went down, the gladiator was killed. If the thumb went up, the gladiator survived. And it was all down to the crowds. The crowds influenced Caesar's decision. It was the one time in Roman history that the democracy really, truly was there. So the gladiator would come out and fight another gladiator or a couple of lions. And if the gladiator managed to win the fight, Caesar would then ask the crowds whether the gladiator should live or die. And if the crowds were entertained enough, they'd allow him to live for another day. If the crowds felt that the gladiator was lacking in some way or had made a few mistakes, then they would boo. Caesar's hand or thumb would go down and the gladiator was killed after having to fight. And YouTube's just the same.
I totally agree. You see it in the chat sometimes, don't you? Where depending
You
on
do.
who is saying what on the panel, yeah, and it all changes. And sometimes the chat will influence the panel. But I think I don't know. I can't say from a host's point of view. I guess you have to keep an eye on the chat. But if I talk on a panel, I don't read the chat because I find it distracting, and I've seen other panelists reading it and getting annoyed by things that they've said, so don't read it.
Welcome back, Bear.
Yeah.
Daddy duties.
I was just walking through the madness. I was walking through the house, mate. Stepped in the wrong room, I think.
Yeah, and stepped back out really quick.
Yeah.
But you're right, Marie. People on YouTube are influenced by the viewers, you know. They'll do what works. And with the auditing community, I don't think they're willingly behaving badly to see if the crowds enjoy it. But there is this perception that behaving badly brings in more crowds. But there's people like DJ Audits completely contradicts that totally. You know, as Crinkle points out, he goes and audits a biscuit factory and he gets twice as many views for it. I watch it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we've watched his as well.
Yeah.
I mean, what
So,
should a host do? Should a host ignore the chat and have moderators enough that they trust that can handle the chat, and then it never influences what's going on panel? Because it can be really chilled, and all of a sudden a few comments in chat can change the whole setting on the panel.
Well, one thing I've thought about is if people come onto my live stream, here's me saying I'm all high and mighty, but if people come onto my live stream, they shouldn't really be looking at the chat. They should be engaging in the conversation. But I do. I mean, I'll engage in the conversation and completely moderate and go through the chat as well, because I want to see what people are saying. I don't know if it's some kind of narcissism there. And I'll highlight the messages.
Is that as a host, not as
a host? Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, as a host, I think perhaps you have to. I don't really know. But if you went on someone's panel, would you do that?
No, less likely, unless it goes dry. If I'm on Shaders and Shady nips out to the shop or something like that, I look at the chat straight away, and that helps me to rattle on.
Yeah, I don't look at the chat too much.
No,
but
not when I'm on other people's panels. I do when I'm hosting, as you just said, Maria. I think you do have to.
Yeah,
because if you don't, you get people in the chat that feel like you're ignoring them and stuff. So that will never work, to completely ignore them as the host.
But the chat is really useful as well, because that steers the conversation. I'll see something somebody will point out, and I won't sort of take the credit for it. If somebody says something which I think is really relevant, I'll read the comment, and then the conversation goes that way. So I rely on the chat to help the conversation flow quite well as well, you know.
That's right, because it's relevant too.
Some clever people in the chat, you know. They never come on to talk, and I don't blame them either, but they're the cleverest people in the room, I think, the ones in the chat, because they don't get involved with all
that has to be
the drama.
Yes.
See, look, I mean, I'll highlight Joker, who I consider to be the most intelligent and emotionally intelligent person on the internet. Vincent is the best host I've heard in a while. I mean, how can I argue with that?
See, I've brought these things in where I'm going to be doing reviews, right, Vincent, on like auditing videos and stuff, right? Maybe like some smaller channels, so then it also helps promote them and things like that. But I'm also, within those reviews, going to be reviewing just the general goings on within the community as well. So it's not really to shit stir, because it won't be done in a live. It will just be a video. Yeah. But it will just be my opinion on kind of like everything that's kind of going on at the time. Hopefully there's nothing going on, but
let me tell you my thoughts on that.
Like I say, it'll be, and it's not always going to necessarily be drama. It might just be me reviewing on the fact that someone's done something good in the community. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean they've done something bad. So, but yeah, I'm going to be doing that as well.
Well, let me comment on that.
A lot of things that go on in the community, good things as well that go on this.
Yeah, let me comment on that. And my thought would be that's a brilliant idea because this community is really strong. And everyone who's in this community, and you see all the usual faces, and they're here what seemingly looks like 24 hours a day. You know, I wish I could put that much time into it, but I'm not able to. So they're so interested in this community. They're invested in it. They want to know what people are doing. They want to know what's going on. You know, it's a really good idea, Bear, and positive. You know me, I'm all about positivity.
But I want to give it some time, right? I'm not going to do it right now. And I probably shouldn't even mention it before asking the guy himself. But I am going to give it some time because I think it's best that it's not straight away. Let's not fucking jump straight in the deep end. But maybe at some point I'm thinking about asking Buzz to come on a live stream of mine, just me and him. Just me and him.
Immediately he'll do it. I'm telling you.
Do you know what? It would be nice for him to discuss auditing and the things that he wants to talk about regarding auditing, right? And doing it in like a constructive way. And me, myself as well. So where we can both do that without having to offend anybody or insult anyone's way of doing anything. And I think maybe it might even people on this side of the fence maybe give him chance to kind of sway those votes a little bit. I'm not saying it will, but do you know what I mean?
From what happened over the last 4 days with you and Buzz, and thankfully it all happened on this channel, I bet you've both gained a bit more views and a bit more subscribers. I bet you have. Probably not seeing it. I don't think
subscriber-wise I have, mate. And for me, it's not about that anyway, so I couldn't give two hoots about the fucking subscriber
well,
base.
It is, you know,
it's
essentially
not. It's not. No, it's not.
Okay.
It's about the views. If you want that, then it's about the views. I'll agree with you with views, but I never for 1 minute is it about the subscriber bases, and that's all that's there, mate. Is that builds your ego. Don't care what anyone says to a certain degree. Numbers looks nicer. It's like an image. It looks nice. Looks all pretty when you're sat there with a high number. Yeah, but the real numbers I want are within the content. I would rather have 8 to 10,000 people watch a video than I would have 8 to 10,000 subscribers, to be honest.
Of course, yeah, and only 100.
Otherwise, what's the point in doing it if you're not really getting your content out there and the message out there? What's the point?
Yeah. Have you ever considered doing things other than auditing as well alongside? I know you've just said about talking about the community, which is a good idea, but have you ever considered doing like documentaries on obscure and wild subjects like death?
Not really, mate.
That's what this live stream was all about, Bear, and I managed to drag it out until you and Maria thankfully came along. I was struggling, to be honest. You know, that's what I'd watch all day long. You know, I remember SG on one of his lives, he went out to McDonald's or Burger King or something, and he visited this little old jail that they have somewhere in Stafford where he lives. And he spent about 10 or 15 minutes showing us round, reading all the plaques, and it was gripping stuff, you know. It really was interesting, and everyone thought the same as well. So YouTube is not just about, you know, doing what you do in one thing. When you look at most YouTubers, they're very diverse in what they're doing. They don't have one theme.
But I always want to keep it within what I'm doing, not necessarily audits, but I don't know, mate. There's a lot of stuff I want to do, Vincent, but I feel like I've only really been around a small amount of time. Still got much more to do. There's much more I can do in the future, and that is kind of like the wonderful thing about it. You can just be versatile and switch up as and when you want. Certainly, once you've already got yourself that little bit of a platform, that's already built there, it makes it then a little bit easier to then transition and bring, you know, introduce other things onto the channel.
One thing I'm considering to do soon, I nearly did it about a week ago, and then I cancelled it because I knew the vote had cancelled. I was going to do an hour, maybe an hour and a half on the police crime sentencing and courts bill, which got pushed back recently, but it's going to go through, and the parts of it that weren't rejected are the parts that are going to affect an auditor's ability to do what he does going forward. So what I was going to do was talk about the police sentencing and crimes bill and courts bill from the perspective of an auditor, essentially telling you all of the ways that you wouldn't be able to employ, you know, in the future. That's something that you could cover as well. I'm going to do it, but any of you guys could do it as well. It's so relevant.
Is that part of the bill to do with the protests, stopping the protests?
It is. Well, a lot of people are saying it ends protesting, and that's something I was going to talk about as well. It doesn't end protesting. What it does is it puts a slightly different perspective on protesting, and it gives the police the ability to boycott our protesting or stop our protesting, but it doesn't give them the power to do it immediately. So there's a lot to go through with that. So the protesting aspect of things I would have done on a separate program completely. There's a good hour and a half in that at least as well.
So that's thrown out Monday, wasn't it?
It got pushed back. It's going to rear its ugly head again, probably in a couple of months' time, 3 months' time. It will get accepted eventually. I think the no votes were about 130. But these bills tend not to go away, and these bills always tend to go through eventually. So I still haven't looked into all of the reasons why it was rejected. I'd be interested in that. I just haven't had the time to research it.
It's sickening, really. I mean, it's like in Australia, the tennis player who won his case, got his visa back only days later for the immigration officer of Australia to take it away again.
Yeah.
Just like, how can they do that? He won his case. That should be end of, shouldn't it?
And how strange at a time when most of the world is really relaxing COVID bullshit. I was going to say rules, Ben, but chose a better word. In the Czech Republic, they've just cancelled mandatory vaccine. In the UK, they're just about to cancel masks, mandatory vaccine, and COVID passports eventually, and things like that. And at a time when we're releasing it, Australia and New Zealand are doubling down on their COVID approach. So I'm interested in watching how that goes, you know, because Australia and New Zealand tend to have very, very few deaths. And we know where they get those deaths from anyway. So what they say is you know, far worse than what we actually know it is. So, but yeah, I don't know if it's just a PR stunt now, mainly for New Zealand. If it's just PR, I don't know. But she's a dangerous woman or man, whichever way you view it.
Yeah, it's interesting that some of the stuff, like, I mean, over the past nearly 2 years, how many protests have reached mainstream media? But the one about the nurses throwing in their uniforms has been shown by Sky, only because it comes up in our YouTube recommended. We don't watch it. Been in the newspapers. The Sun did a video on it, and it's just like, why are they showing it now? Is it because the court proceedings are going through and they're trying to undo what they've not done really?
Well, those court proceedings will go nowhere. There'll be a few settlements out of court. It won't be televised. The revolution won't be televised, folks. And as Paul Joseph Watson, a guy on YouTube, if you don't follow him, I recommend following Paul Joseph Watson. He was pointing out yesterday that all of the media outlets are starting to change their tune now, starting to ask the questions that they should have asked 2 years ago. Starting to question the validity of the measures taken, and starting to question the actual vaccines involved as well. So we're going to see a shift change in the media. they're going to slowly go against all of the measures. The measures will be gone by the time that the newspapers are completely against those measures, which is farcical in my eyes. But I do wonder if there's maybe a surprise or two coming up in the future. It won't hold, it won't last, and it won't be very sort of taken very seriously by the population of the UK again. But yeah, I just wonder if they're going to try something again in the future, kind of blame the fact that we haven't got any measures on, you know, the rise in infections or deaths. That's what I fear.
Yep. Yeah,
That's what
it's
they
just
do. They play
interesting.
us.
Yeah, because the court cases are going on, aren't they, about the PCP,
Yeah.
and then it'll go on to murders and and so on and so forth. And I just wonder if that's why they're backtracking.
It's a very interesting time to be alive, Marie. It really is. It truly is probably almost the most exciting time to be alive. I know not many people will tend to see COVID as exciting, but the actual movements within politics, the movements within people's perception of politics, it's huge. And I truly think this is a greater time than World War II was in some ways. The after effects and the years to come are going to be very exciting. I think we're going to see some huge changes within law, within politics, and some of that fills me with dread. You know, I am a little bit of a sort of person who prefers government than not. I prefer laws than not, because some of them do protect us and some of us keep us very safe. But yeah, I think it's going to be a very exciting time. Sorry, Bear, did you want to come back in?
I did, mate. I did. I didn't mean to kick myself.
I could see you waving, but I didn't know if you were, I don't know, doing something else. We started this stream talking about death, or I did, Bear, talking
what
about
a thing
death.
to talk about. What were you talking about?
I know. Death? Well, let me justify myself. When I first came on, it came to me on my way home from shopping earlier that it's a subject which nobody really talks about. It's something that we all ignore. You know, we all pretend it doesn't happen, but ultimately it happens to every single one of us. So I thought I'd write a little piece on death with a few quotes in there, and how it came across or how it was received, I've no idea. I do tend to listen to myself
That's why
afterwards.
grief's so hard, mate. That's why grief's so hard, because we don't want to talk about it, and we
No.
do to the back, so that when actually it does happen, most people don't know how to deal with grief, man. And I think that's probably why most people actually deal with grief in such a bad way. It's because it's avoided at like every cost until it really needs to be spoke about. I don't know if you'd agree, but I'd say so.
Well, but shouldn't we be prepared? Shouldn't we be trained almost in it? You know, it's a sad eventuality that will happen to all of us. We've got to deal with our own death as much as we have other people's death.
Yeah. I mean, look back in history. Do you not think back in history, like, people were probably more acceptant to death back then than what we are now?
They celebrated it, man. They celebrated it. Look in South America now, they dig the body up every year and have what they call the celebration of the dead or whatever. I can't remember what it translates to, but they sit it at the table. They put a plate in front of it. They give it a drink.
No, come on.
Yeah, they do. Seriously. They do.
Celebrating is good, but
Bro,
not,
I used to be a grave digger, right? I've done grave digging for like 2.5 years.
Oh my God.
And let me tell you now, I see some of the most horrific stuff that you could possibly think of. And I couldn't imagine digging up a corpse every year from that first year to that whatever year to do. That's mad.
I think
that's crazy.
It's either the Day of the Dead or something like that. But they dig up their relatives. They take photographs with the dead body. Everyone thinks I'm lying about this. Go Google it. It's true. They made movies about this as well. There was a cartoon that me and my son watched just last year, and it's a little boy that sadly dies, and
you.
Sorry.
I don't disbelieve you.
Yeah.
Truth is stranger than
So,
fiction.
so if you go, South America is where it mainly happens, but there's some parts of Asia that do this as well. They dig the body back up, they take photographs, they bring it into the house, it spends a night or two in the house, they put flowers next to it, everyone comes and visits great grandma, and then they put it back in the ground for another year. And this happens annually with all of their relatives. It's a very macabre thing to do, but they celebrate death. They never forget the people, you know.
Yeah, celebrating death, I think, is a good thing, but I think they should do it with photographs or something like that.
Not dig the body up.
Yeah. And what about cremations? Oh dear.
I think they use
I suppose they
preservation.
don't have them.
I think they
Yeah.
use preservation techniques with the body so that it doesn't decay in the way that a normal body would upon burial. Because when you see the bodies, they look pretty preserved. You know, some of them have been sort of up 20 times, and they kind of still look human-like. So, but yeah, it's a funny thing. And this Disney cartoon, I think it's called Day of the Dead. I might be wrong on that, but something like that. It's about a little boy that dies, and he goes over to the other side. His family can't see him anymore, and he meets all his old relatives. And these old relatives are, as I said, brought up once a year, and they have life for those 2 days or 3 days that they're up. And that's the thinking behind it, is that they give their relatives and their ancestors life again, you know. And in the same way, they believe that in the same way that they give the dead people life, the living people take wisdom from them. They learn from them.
Yeah.
Doesn't
That
sound
lady
too
that I was
bad.
telling you about, no, the lady I was telling you about, she was saying in the next 18 months, because we're in the age of Aquarius, that we will all look at death differently. She said I'll obviously be talking more about that as it gets closer to the time, you know, what's going on in the planets and everything. But I found that quite interesting. I thought, yeah, it's kind of what you're saying. We need to look at it, but look at it differently.
In what way will we look
I
at
think
death
she's saying
differently?
it's more like you were saying about, you know, celebrating it rather than mourning and grieving. And
I'll be honest with you. It's always been my perspective that any funeral has always been a celebration. I mean, my family are all Irish Catholics anyway, so there's a big piss up afterwards and food, and
yeah,
you know, they sit there talking, telling old stories about whoever has died, and that's always felt like a celebration to me. It's never felt like a somber moment. When people die early, it can be very tragic and unexpected, but if somebody makes it all the way to a ripe old age, it should be celebrated. It should be
yeah.
remembered, you know. And I often think to myself, people who are took early, what advice would they give us about carrying on living, you know, when they've had their
Yeah.
life taken away from them? If they got the opportunity to come back, would they still worry about paying an electric bill? Would they still worry about, you know, their neighbours and the argument they've had and so on? Or would they have a completely different perspective on life and enjoy it more than they did previously? Because I see a lot of people that claim that they don't enjoy their lives and they want to not have it anymore, if that's a delicate way to put it. I see a lot of people complaining about all of the problems in their life. But there's one real big problem in our lives that's steaming towards all of us, and that's death. Because once that comes along, you can't change anything. You can only do it beforehand.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sounding really morose, aren't I?
No,
I'm trying to see it
it
as a
does make
positive, which I.
sense. No, it does make sense. I mean, our kids all got to be in their 30s before they lost someone really close, and that was their granddad, my dad, and they'd not experienced it. Our youngest daughter did a few years ago, her partner died, but they reached their 30s before they experienced losing somebody. And I think it's a good topic to talk about.
It is. It
I
is.
mean,
You don't
I
have to.
do believe in afterlife. I do believe that they live on, and you know, I think, you know, like when our daughter's partner died, I said to her, "How do you think he would feel seeing you how you are now? He wouldn't want to see that, you know." And the same as, you know, when I pass, I wouldn't want to be seeing my children, grandchildren grieving. You just wouldn't. So I think we do need to change our perception on it.
Yeah. There should be a period of mourning, but then, you know, there should be that period afterwards where you remember them and move on. Like you say, if you were to ask your parents whether they want you to ruin the rest of your life because they died earlier than expected, you know, that they'd tell you to carry on as best you can, wouldn't they? They wouldn't want you to be fucking
Yeah,
thinking
that's
about
true.
them all the time.
But somebody else don't have the right how you feel either, do they?
No, that's true. That's true. And it's only sort of the way I see it. You know, I'm not trying to sort of educate
Because
anyone
we'd all
here.
wish that for our children and stuff. Like when we go, if we, you know, got you would hope that you go before your children. Obviously, that's the way it's meant to be, and obviously that's what you wish for your children, like that they wouldn't be mourning and stuff. But the same, that's quite easy for anyone to say, right? Because
It is. Baron of Opien said earlier, Bear, when he had children, he completely changed his view on death. You know, he'd never thought about it before, never really worried about it before. And then as soon as he had kids, it kept him awake at night. It's true, isn't it?
Mm.
Well, I've killed
Yeah,
the
see, I
conversation
wouldn't
here.
want my kids to go like, oh yay, and party straight away. They can have a few tears first, but then I would want them to pick themselves up and be happy. I wouldn't want to be seeing them grieving.
No.
I did just read a comment contrary to what I said a little while ago, and I am so sorry, UK medic. For me, I've always thought that's got to be the worst thing, to lose a child. But you know, kudos to you. He says he's turned his life around and become a paramedic to help save people.
I remember UK medic telling that story in a panel once, and yeah, I think that's
Yeah, I didn't know.
the nightmare of any parents, and I'm so sorry that happened to your medic. I am so sorry.
But
That's like
he's made something good come out of it, hasn't he, by helping to save other people's lives?
Yeah, that's what he said. He said, you know,
Yeah,
all of his drive, all of his you know, the energy that he puts into the work that he does now helping people is because of his daughter, and that's a wonderful thing.
yeah. I mean, I
Wonderful,
never knew
wonderful
that.
thing.
I spoke to UK medic the other, well, in chat messages the other day, and he said to look at his videos, and I was like, oh, I've spent enough time in an ambulance without, and I said, but I will go and look. Well, when I went and had a look a few days later, I was really surprised. It's a really lovely video of nature, music, really lovely scenes and everything. I was expecting to see, you know, the driving seat of the blue lights. And then after that, I had to go and have a look for myself. And I saw this video, and it's an ambulance on a, I can't remember what code they call it, but like the highest emergency. And he's got 3 motorbikes going along with him. And the synchronicity, how careful they are. I mean, they are so skilled at what they were doing in, you know, really bad traffic. And it is amazing to watch. But yeah, hard job.
Yes, I'm definitely not built for anything like that. And I have quite a lot of respect for anyone who works in that industry. You know, even in the caring world, people who work in residential homes and making, you know, people as comfortable as possible in their last days or weeks or months. So I hide from death as much as everyone else, you know.
I have massive
Yeah.
respect for anyone that works in that NHS, you know, but I also like feel for them. Just feel like our government just takes them for an absolute mockery. Every single person that works within that NHS, and it's a shame, really.
Well, the fact that nursing is not very well paid and caring is probably the lowest paid position that somebody can assume in the entire country. You know, it's a minimum wage job for something which is God's work, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's really brought the conversation down, isn't it? I'm going to
Well,
end
we
the
are
stream.
talking about death, aren't we? We was talking about death.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm just very aware that it's a sort of, it's an odd subject. I
subject.
was more than aware of the sort of the controversial aspect of it. I did sort of make a point of trying to be positive at the end of my little sort of ramble at the start, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to end the stream there. It's been really nice. Thank you for coming on, Maria. Thank you for coming on, Bear.
That's okay. Surprise.
Always
Thank
a pleasure,
you.
Brent. Always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Good to
cheers
see
for
you,
having
man.
us on, Vincent.
Yeah,
And good to see you, Bear. I'm going to pass you back to
Yeah,
Master
and-
Ron to do the whatever. Take
To
care
do the
all.
finishing
No,
offs.
nice speaking with you, Murray.
You too. Yeah, love to you, Mrs.
Yeah, take care.
You lot take care then, and we'll
Cheers, Ron.
speak to you later.
Big up,
We haven't
bye.
had a
That's
serious
all right.
conversation for ages, so I'll hopefully see you soon in a room.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, just
When's
when you
Steve
have
coming back?
this,
Anyone know when Steve's coming back?
I really haven't got a clue. Hopefully
Said
soon.
Steve's live.
I do ask him, but I think he's having a sort of an out time at the moment. And I agree really, because, you know, he's had a little bit of grief. He got a bit sick of it. So I'm sure he'll be back, and he'll be back stronger than ever.
Yeah. Hopefully it will be soon, because must admit, having these conversations and what have you, we need more of them, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
We do, Ron. Well, this leads me to a question before we leave then. When are you starting yours? Because I know you said you were looking at other platforms, but you can do it right here and very safely, Ron, if you choose to.
Yeah,
Well controlled.
yeah, after all the drama with people trying to do themselves in,
Yeah, but you can avoid that. There's some really,
infighting.
there's clever,
Yeah,
sensitive people here.
Yeah, but that's
You can just
maybe that's why we
concentrate on
need people
those.
like you to open up live
Yes,
streams, Master Ron,
yes.
for that exact
I
reason.
don't know. I don't know. You got Vincent has now opened up, which is good. Another platform.
And
You
you
got
remember when you're
you
live,
got Ronnie.
everything's in your control,
Yeah,
mate. Everything is in your control. Like,
yeah, but
in fact, it's a lot better actually, because you can have it how you want it rather than go on to somebody else's and have to maybe just accept the fact of how they run theirs.
And Ron,
yeah,
you can
it's just
teach them how to do
you
it.
got Ronnie. You've got Vince. You've got Jason's now opened up his lives as well. And so all the subjects that I talk about, plus with SG, I can find on, well, obviously Dean knows as well. I can go to Tyrant Finders. I can go to Independent Free Press. You got the Curious Bunny and everything, which is covering the topics and what have you now of what we all discuss. You know what I mean? You allow some of it on yours, Bear. Hull allows a little bit on his one as well, just like you. So really, to me, since there's quite a few have just opened up, 3 in the past, 2 weeks, you know, then it's just another one cluttering up the space where you can all meet up and get into the nitty gritty of things, if you know what I mean, just spreading people about. Whereas, I don't think if I ever do, then it would be something like D Live or something like that, where you can literally just say the words and there's no censoring whatsoever. That you
Yeah,
can
maybe you're
really have
right.
your voice, you know. So if I do, that'll be where. So if I did open up, I'd get a StreamYard's account and I'd just open it up just to talk for about 30 minutes, just to say, right, here's the link. I'm over to D Live if anybody wants to come along and they want to share and actually express their views with no censorship, then follow across. That more likely if I do bring up a live thing on YouTube, because with the censorship that's come out even now, it's so hard. You really is starting to give me a headache how to think of what to say and how to say it and everything. You know what I mean? And when you're having to pre-think yourself on one, what you can say, how you can say it, and everything, it's like, wow, that's, you know, you're not given your true expression on situations because you're having to always hold that back. You've got to rein your neck in, so you can't really brah. And that's what I'm about. You know, if you've got something to say, you should be freely allowed to say it, not think about it before you say it, because you're not allowed to give your emotions out. That's basically what YouTube is. Don't give out your emotions. Don't give out your true feelings, and that's not really for me. If you, I don't know, maybe I'm deep thinking it. It's just that I was looking at
So what
on
though? Do you
another
think
live
if you look at
into it.
the censorship you're on about, that the censorship is
Mm,
more, and I know it's something that you do like to discuss, but it is like only round, not only, but like it is mainly to do with the fucking certain something that's been around for the last 2 years. Like, I feel
yeah,
like
but
there's a lot of other topics that you can discuss that are controversial, and I do feel it allows it, but it has to be, and this is where like I'm going to sound like Crinkle now, right? It has to be seen on YouTube as being a balanced debate. It has to
yeah,
be
but
seen as
you
being a
can't
balanced debate.
see. But see, no,
And I think as long
I
as it's seen as being balanced, then like usually you're okay. You know, it's just when like
yeah.
if you're pushing one side out,
It,
I don't think fucking YouTube
well,
likes that.
I put it this way: everything that that clown has been saying has just recently been thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Everything is he, you know, his statistics, death rates, and all this within the past 7 days. Everything he said has been thrown out the window. Will he have his channel closed down for misinformation? I bet it don't, because that's all he's been given is misinformation.
Yeah.
Because now the official death rates are out. So it's whatever he has said in the past, he has basically been wrong. But I bet he don't get shut down.
I'm
That's
gonna end
why.
the I'm gonna end the stream now, guys. I'm gonna
Respect
read through the
Vincent. Hey,
chat. Yeah, thanks for coming on, Bear. I
see you
appreciate
later,
you,
mate.
man.
No worries. Take care. Take care,
I'm gonna
Master
end
Rob.
the I'm
You
gonna end
take care as
the
well, Bear,
stream.
and family, mate.
Cheers,
I will
Ron. I'm
bump
gonna
myself so you can have your closing statement. You take care,
thank you.
Vincent. Speak to you later. Bye,
Cheers,
mate.
my man. Bye bye. So I'm gonna have a quick look through the chat and read some of the comments. I saw some which were quite honest, really, quite sort of hard reading. But I'm gonna read through them anyway. I'm sure people put them on there because they're happy to share it. Live, love, and laugh while you can. Life is too short, as tomorrow may never come. It's true, Graham. It's very, very true. I don't know if death is a wonderful chilled chat, Joe, but my intention was to discuss it as a positive. Whether I got to that point or not, I'm not too sure. I was worried that people might have thought I was feeling a bit morose, a bit down, a bit sort of deathly, but that's not the case at all. It just occurred to me that it's not a subject that people talk a lot, and it's something that happens to us all, and you know, we should have a positive view of it. You know, I suppose the main mantra I was getting at was celebrate life, not death. Death happens anyway, so you'll celebrate that after celebrating life. Thank you, Anthony. Chats like this help so much more than any therapy session. For me, anyway. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate you, man. Bless you and your family, UK Medic. I noticed Tim's comment, and I suppose I'll get to that in a second. I read that, Tim, and yeah, God. Always close by you, Medic. Always close by you. They are never gone so long as we hold them in our hearts and our head. It's true, UK Medic. It's the quote that Banksy said, that I made earlier, and Banksy said, they say you die twice, one time when you stop breathing, and a second time a bit later on, when somebody says your name for the last time. And it's true. The dead do live in our heads forever. She's with you, Tim. She's deeply imprinted in your heart, day by day, hour by hour, if needed. Please keep going. Always keep going, Tim. I lost my missus aged 40, 4 years ago. I think about my life at least 3 times a day. What stops me is our grandchildren, the decision to help others, and the 350 plus people that arrived at her funeral. She was clearly loved and well known, Tim. She clearly loved. For all the warnings I give folks, there are still many beautiful people around. There are, Mary, there's loads of us. I know you've sent me a comment on one of my videos. I'm prepared for it. Don't think it'll be bothering me too much. If it does, I'll give you a shout. Thank you for Maria. Come on. Thank you to Bear, and thank you to Ron. Thank you to Joe for all of his comments. And Tim even thanks me. Never be shy of speaking about death. It's true. That's kind of one of the points I was trying to make as well. We can't escape it. The only thing we can do is live. We can live our lives until that happens.